from the Asian Community Development Council. This is Family in Focus, Mondays at 12 noon on PHLV Radio.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Family in Focus podcast brought to you by the Asian Community Development Council right here on PHLV Radio. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We're starting off the week on a topic that I think just, really definitely something on the mind of a lot of people, especially immigrant communities, Asian American communities, applying for US citizenship and what to expect. Now, this can be a very challenging process for a lot of families, especially they do have language barriers. If they're new to the country, they don't have a lot of help. And that's why with the Asian Community Development Council, ACDC, that's one of the core services that they offer as part of their mission is to help people offer that free assistance in filling out the paperwork and get the help that they need in getting their citizenship. But it can be a very, very challenging process, as my guest today will tell you, but there is help out there and there is information out there. And that's what we want to provide during this half hour of the show today. So let's introduce our guest for the show today. We're going to start with Michael Crabtree. He is the Community Relations Officer with the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS. He works for the whole state of Nevada, so he represents people both up in Reno and here in Las Vegas as well. And joining him today, we have Ranee Samerthai. She is an immigration attorney based right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Her law firm is called RST Law Group, and she works with mainly the Asian American communities. And she is Thai, so she speaks Thai as well. So a lot of her clients are Thai. So we're going to be talking with Ranee about her experiences, her advice, especially for clients who have legal issues before they apply for citizenship. What do they need to know? So a lot of information we want to put out there today. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Facebook page. This is live again. We're going to be on our ACDC Facebook page, also on the PHLV Radio Facebook page as well. So let's get right into this conversation. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Thank you so much for being here on the show with us today. I know you're a wealth of information, so we're going to try and get as much information from you today. So tell me a little bit about how this past year and a half, 2 years have been for your agency. Obviously, the pandemic has affected all of us in many different ways, and I'm sure for the USCIS as well.
Thank you so much for having me today. So for sure, there's this last year and a half for everybody. We realize things have not been the norm and for us as well. Our applications significantly dropped off at the start of the pandemic, and now we're back to what we normally our normal receipt notices and things are looking up. The downside of that, and so we're asking people to please have patience. We realize that our backlog is not acceptable, and we're working very diligently on it while we still maintain all our safety that has been set in place. So, we're not doing as many interviews in our local office. Masks are mandatory. And so, as we get back to where we would like to be, we just appreciate everyone's patience. We appreciate everybody working with our local community groups and getting the resources out there, and just know that we're diligently working as hard as we can to reduce our backlog and get everybody the services that they've paid for.
Yeah, and I know you said that cases have been down, but you said now that we're reaching, hopefully towards the end of this pandemic, you're saying that you're seeing number of cases going up. So people are still applying for citizenship. And talk to me about that, especially here in Nevada, especially Southern Nevada, with people coming and working and living here from all over the world. I'm sure those numbers you've seen, just in the past 10 years, probably, especially in the Asian American community.
Right. So I think those continue to grow for sure. The resources out there to help individuals get that citizenship. So, a lot of times people don't understand this is kind of like a two-step process. You have to be a legal permanent resident first, and that's for 3 or 5 years, and then you can apply for citizenship. And so we've got great groups out there like ACDC and RST Law that will help you. We also have our website, the USCIS.gov website, that provides all the information out there to apply for citizenship and can help you walk through those processes.
Yeah. And Ranee, let me bring you into the conversation here because I know you work with Michael and you've done projects together, but you've also worked with the Asian Community Development Council as well in the past. And you see the process that they go through and the kind of help that they want to give to the community. And just talk to me about that, some of the challenges, because I'm sure, they see all sorts of issues, not just with the language barriers, right, Ranee, but also people who just have not gone through this process before in other countries, but having to deal with what they have to do if they want to become a citizen here in the U.S.
Yes, so a lot of people are just overwhelmed. When they see the paperwork, they start, they just don't know where to start. That's the reason why people will reach out to the Asian Community Development Council for some help. It's because they're there to guide you, to at least help you fill in the blanks and fill in the documents for you, answer questions if they're able to do so. A lot of people are just unsure how to answer certain questions as well, because sometimes these questions can be a little bit confusing, especially when it comes down to things like legal history. That's one of the main things that can hinder someone when they're trying to apply for citizenship. And so there's ways that you have to disclose everything, to USCIS. They are asking. I know there's a lot of misunderstanding with this. Some people will believe it's only the past 5 years where they have to disclose things like this. However, USCIS had stated that the question specifically states that they want to know of all time, right, Michael?
Right. So it says, have you ever?
Have you ever? Yeah. And so there's no time limit on that. It's just, have you ever? And so that's when a lot of people can get confused, and that's when they'll reach out to the community centers to see if they can help guide them with these kind of questions.
And I'm sure, honesty is best policy. You must report it. But I'm sure a lot of people, Ranee, they don't want to because they feel like if they disclose anything, any kind of legal issues they've had in the past, that's going to cut their chances of becoming a citizen. So can you kind of help clarify that? I mean, are there things that they can work with you, other attorneys, with the USCIS in terms of making sure that they're honest about it, but they still can have that chance of becoming a U.S. citizen?
For sure, honesty is the best policy when it comes to filling out these applications. One of the main things is that when you don't disclose something, they can basically take it as I'm not going to use the word lie on an application, but that's what it almost equates to, because when you don't tell them everything, then you sign off at the end of it stating that everything on your application is the truth, then you're going against what you're basically swearing off on.
Right. And we had this conversation earlier, Ranee, about the types of legal issues. And we're not just talking criminal. There are many other legal issues that you've seen with your clients that you have to clarify and work with them with, right?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily just criminal issues sometimes. Some people, it's IRS. So if you owe money to the IRS, USCIS is understanding, as long as you can show them that even though you're past due, should bring in a payment plan, show that you're paying your bill, that you're not running away from it. Same thing as when there's a question about asking if you're supporting your dependents, which would mean child support, alimony, things like that, just to show that you're not overdue in those areas as well. So legal issues doesn't just narrow it down. It's just not specific towards criminal issues. It has anything to do really with the legal system. It could be family court, I guess, IRS, and criminal.
Yeah. And Michael, I know you probably work with, attorneys reach out to you, different groups like ACDC reach out to say, we have clients who really want to become citizens. But they have, basically have a history and they want to work through this. What's your best advice? What do you put out there when you're out in the community? You meet people from all different groups. What kind of information are you putting out there for the community?
So thank you. I think Renee's hit it on the head completely. So USCIS can work with many concerns that you have. Our focus is your last 5 years. Have you been staying out of trouble potentially, right? And so the key though is, DUIs seem to be a common occurrence, unfortunately, in Las Vegas. If there's one of those in the last 5 years, there's a possibility that USCIS can work with you and we can get through that. If you wanted to go in and say, I've had everything sealed and this never happened, just as Ranee said, it speaks to a good moral character,
Right.
which is a part of becoming a citizen, right? And so being honest in the interview is key and crucial. And if you're in the interview and you're not providing the accurate information, that couldn't be the sole reason that the case does not get approved. So it's key to get all your information together, to get everything together before you even start the process. And then at that point, we can see where we're at and can see if you're still eligible and still qualify. And many times they do.
Yeah, and this is why this is, one of the key missions of ACDC, an organization like this, is to educate and empower the community, especially the Asian American Pacific Islander, is, with situations like this, it's so hard for a lot of people who are maybe just coming to this country, just kind of learning about our process, our legal system, and applying for citizenship can be so overwhelming. And Ranee, when you work with clients, I know you work with a lot of the Thai community, but also Laotian, Hmong, groups that are growing here in Southern Nevada. I mean, I'm sure, they come to you, it's like, I want to become a citizen, I need your help. But I'm sure you're talking to them kind of in general, right, about how you need to prepare just to become a member of society here, but how you have to prepare for different things. And it's not just about one thing. It's just like, you have to prepare for all kinds of things, going to work, with your family. How do you kind of approach this and just be that person that people can trust and feel like they can come to you for information they need?
I try to, provide information for everyone. We like how we're doing here today. We're providing free information to the community, and I always try to be accessible to people. Even when they call our office, we don't charge a consultation fee. I talk to everyone, and I'll sit down and talk to you and see where you can help at. I also go out to the community. We'll attend different functions or events that the community has with the Laotian community, the Thai community specifically. And so when they have different events, I try to go as well, just to make it known that I'm here for the community. So when people have a question with regards to immigration, that they know they can reach out to us, and they can, even if I'm not currently with ACDC right now, however, I'm still open to help when they come in, because I know that language is one of the barriers, and it's very hard to find someone that they can speak with that understands them and that can explain it back to them fluently.
Yeah. And, when it comes to just citizenship in particular, what are some of the steps that you're telling people right now? If they're thinking, they're listening right now, or they're watching right now, it's like, okay, I want to apply for citizenship, or, I have family members who might be here in this country, who might be out of the country still. What are some of the first things they need to think about? I'll ask both Michael and Ranee to weigh in on this. Michael, why don't I start with you?
So I think the first thing to contemplate is all the steps that are going to be involved, right? So you can't just show up the day of the interview and not have been prepared.
Right.
I like the RST Law Group. I think one of the things that they provide, there's many community groups out there that will help you, but anybody who's telling you we can speed this process up, we can make things faster, we can those are not really options that are available. So, being honest and upfront, being prepared. So the application is a long process. You also have that civics and history exam, a reading and writing that's a part of a lot of individuals' process. So it's good to be prepared and to get things started before you just hop in there, or maybe wait till the last second and then try and get ready to do it. So I would just say, go to the resources that are available in the community, like ACDC, go to the resources available online. I was just checking our multilingual resources available for citizenship on the USCIS website. And it's uscis.gov, and there's Chinese, Korean, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. Those are all the languages that are available on our website that can provide some additional citizenship information.
And you brought up an interesting point about, all these ads out there, maybe services that are being offered to people. Are you seeing any kind of scams out there? Because I'm sure those are one thing that people don't want to get caught in, and paying people lots of money and then they don't get the results that they're looking for.
Right. So for sure, that's a big push for us to avoid scams. We want you to go to some place that understands immigration. Immigration is a very complex topic. And so if you have individuals that potentially help you with a little bit of everything, we need to make sure that they have individuals specifically set aside for immigration. So it's great to go to these local community groups that have the experience and that have, they're honest and upfront with you from the get-go. And so I think that's critical. Don't go somewhere just because they promise you something that's potentially not even an option.
Yeah, and Ranee, have you seen this? Have you seen clients who have come to you after they've been dealing with issues like that, where they try to get help and it didn't really turn out the way that it was supposed to?
Unfortunately, yes. There's groups out there. They kind of offer their services to people who can't speak English. And so they offer these services saying that we're a one-stop shop. We can do everything for you. We'll complete the applications, we'll submit it, but they're not attorneys. And so sometimes when you when you go to these places, they don't know what they're doing, or especially if there's issues on there, they don't know how, they can't give you advice on it, and they're not supposed to either. And so they can't go with you to the interview as well to help with your case. We've had situations like that before, where they've come in, and so there's just things that we have to fix, and it costs the applicant more now, because either their first case was denied because of a mistake and they have to resubmit and pay another filing fee, or if there's legal issues now. For example, there was something where they should never have submitted, and then they ended up being put into removal proceedings now instead. So they ended up having to hire an attorney to go to court now, and just to start over.
And that's just, I'm sure it's a frustrating thing for so many people, especially with the pandemic. People lost their jobs, maybe they lost their sources of income, but they still want to do this. And it's an expense, right? They do have to pay for services and to apply the application fee, right? And, to pay attorney on top of that, I'm sure it's a hardship for a lot of people. So, and I think you're right, Ranee. It's like, if you just take that step from the beginning to avoid paying even more down the road, I think that's probably your advice, right, for people.
It is. I advise you to reach out to these nonprofit groups. They've been vetted. Michael works with a lot of nonprofits, so he would, we don't necessarily, I don't think you necessarily recommend a certain group. However, do your research, make sure that the group organization does, specify that they work with the immigrant community and they can do applications like this. So that way, you're getting the best services that you can in your situation.
And Michael, I'm sure that's comforting to you to know that there are organizations out there, aiming to help people in different community groups who can speak different languages, because that will help them to get the right paperwork through the process with your agency.
Absolutely. We don't want people to have to pay twice or pay additional. It's excellent to have community members out there like ACDC and RST Law Group that we know understand the process and understand how to help individuals and get them the right help they need, because we know it's not free. To apply for citizenship currently, it's the application is $640, and the biometric fee, the fees for our fingerprints and photographs are $80. So it comes out to $725. That's a lot of money. And so we want you to get the right help and not to have somebody take advantage of you.
And people have to plan for these things too, right, Michael? Because they don't happen overnight. And I understand, because with the pandemic, the process takes even a little bit longer now to go through. Correct.
And so currently, if you were to apply for citizenship, you're potentially looking at a year from the time you applied till the time we have you in there for an interview. And so if that's something that you're contemplating, you can apply and know that you have time maybe to study or to feel comfortable in that interview. And so, yeah, for sure, get prepared and have everything together before you apply. Talk to these great community groups that can help you and get it in as soon as possible, because unfortunately there currently is a waiting time.
Yeah. And Ranee, I know you work with a lot of people who speak Thai as well, people in the Thai community. And I've heard from Thai people as well, as I am Thai. I've actually gotten a question from someone who was really nervous about studying for the test and wanting to make sure that they're prepared. What is some of the advice that you're giving people, and can they get help in order to prepare for their upcoming test?
Of course, there's different events, not events, but different classes in the community that are offered for free sometimes by either Clark County. We just have to look at English classes, I think. Sometimes they're offered at the local libraries. The ACDC will be able to provide you with some testing material, I think, with
the sample questions and things like that. Yeah.
People who come to us, we actually, the ones who actually retain us, we actually do, I guess, we run sample interviews with them,
Yeah, like mock interviews, so they know what to expect. Yeah.
We do. So I know Thai people get really nervous. So we actually meet with them as much as they want, or until I feel that they are comfortable to the point when they walk in, they're not nervous anymore. They already know what to expect. So that's how we work with them a lot, actually, because I really want everyone to pass. And I don't want it to be because of their nerves.
Right.
That's one of those things. So, I don't want them to fail because of nerves. So I make them meet with me, actually. So when people come here and they are ready to sign up for citizenship, I ask them, when we're ready to interview, are you ready to come into practice? Like school, I want you to be here an hour even, we're just going to go through this until you get it. A lot of times they're nervous is because they don't qualify to have an interpreter yet. And so they're afraid of doing it all in English. And so we end up practicing in English with them as well until they understand. We also give them Thai versions that we have here in the office. It's not available on USCIS. It's something that we have here so that they can study on their own. But they have to remember that even though it's Thai, they still have to take the exam in English if they don't qualify for the interpreter.
Now, this is some great information. And Michael, have the questions changed, or what are some of the different, offerings that are out there? Because I understand if you are a certain age or you've been in a country for a number of years, there are different tests out there, correct?
Right. So if the test is basically the same for everybody, except for if you're 50 years old and you've had your legal permanent resident card, many people call it their green card, for 20 years, you can do it in your native language. And so if you're 50 and have been for 20, or 55 and have been a legal permanent resident for 15 years, you can do it in your native language. Also, individuals that are 65 years old and have been a legal permanent resident for 20 years, they have a modified version of the test. So they only have to study from 20 of the questions. And so there are a lot of study guides out there, like Ranee has set up with her law group on our website. Or you'll see this is a sample of potentially something you would pick up at ACDC or any other community group. This has all the test questions in it. It has all the answers. The test, briefly, there was going to be a new test that was briefly in place and then it went away. So we're back to the 2008 version of the test, which is what is available in these brochures and online, and any other place that you may be looking for. And if you have groups that are looking for them, please feel free to reach out to USCIS and we potentially can bring you some information.
So first step, Michael, people are even thinking of applying for U.S. citizenship, this year, maybe next year. First place to go is your website, right? Because they can find all the basic information there.
Correct. Always a great place to start.
Yeah, no, that's good. And Ranee, any other last advice for people listening and watching right now? I'm sure you'll be getting calls later on today to try to get some help. What last words do you have for people just listening and just wanting to start this process, but just, aren't really quite sure where to start?
reach out. Just reach out to the community centers. They are a good starting point. I know people like to listen to family and friends, and family and friends mean well. However, the information can be a little misconstrued sometimes. So I recommend that if you are truly interested in being a citizen, reach out to the community centers or USCIS just to see if you qualify and where to get started and any general questions you have, rather than just Googling it and relying on family and friends.
Yeah, that's right. And Michael, I'm sure you agree. Anything else you wanted to make sure people kind of take away with as we wrap up this conversation? I know you're talking about different groups coming to you, and I know the Filipinos' second largest group that comes like here that you're hearing from and applying for citizenship, right?
Correct. So in Las Vegas, that is our second largest community that applies for citizenship. And so, please, I know there's different community groups that maybe are uncomfortable reaching out. Just know that there are a lot of community-based organizations such as ACDC that provide you accurate information, that are willing to listen. RST Law Group, excellent in providing accurate information and listening. So please feel free. If you're not comfortable, our website has a virtual assistant that you could reach out and talk to even at 2 a.m. So you didn't have to call ACDC or RST Law Group at 2 a.m. And so just get information before you start the process.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you both to you, Michael, and also Ranee, for joining us on the show today. I'm looking at the ACDC website right now. It's acdcnv.org, and under their programs, free citizenship assistance is listed there, and they actually listed, the basic paperwork that people need to bring, which is great. So the information is out there. I think a lot of it is just people just kind of understanding what this process is all about, reaching out for help when they need and know that assistance is out there. So again, Michael and Ranee, thank you so much for your time and joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for watching and listening on this episode of Family in Focus. And we'll be back next week.